Africa had great kings and queens, you should know. Search your history, it will show you. If you know not from whence you came, you are doomed to live in shame.
Great kings of Africa, rulers all about. They were mighty, brave and strong.
We have a guest, Eugene Hollis from American Indian Movement, and I bring to you now Eugene Hollis.
We lost this land because of our own ignorance, but again, we didn't know any better. We were operating from our heart. We always helped everybody that came to us. Our history tells us that. And like we say, we helped your people, we helped all European people, and we didn't know the mistake that we were doing when we were doing that, because we had an open heart. That's where we are. We help our brothers and sisters, and no matter where they come from. And that was our downfall. We were too helpful. But like the brother said here tonight, we got to learn our history and our culture. I always knew my culture. I always knew my history. I was always proud of who I was. And I grew up with some young men and some people in our nation. They try to be white. They try to be somebody else. And now they finally woke up after 30 years struggling, thinking they were somebody else. And you can't be nobody else. You just got to be yourself. And when you know yourself, you know your history, you know how proud you are. Like I say, I was always proud of who I was. And I took a lot of bumps on the head because I stood up, because somebody made fun of me or laughed at me or tried to talk against my people. I took a few bumps and rolls and here and there. But I was always proud. I always stood up to what I believed in. And in my family, my brother was we followed the system. We tried to work with the system and everything like that. My brother was a chairman for 20 years. He went around the world. He went around the world. He traveled far. He traveled into Russia. He traveled here and there on the government expense. But he had all the wisdom and knowledge of how people were treated. No matter where he went, he knew the difference. He knew he was a foreigner in that country. And like you say, our people helped your people when they came here. Like the brother said, we took you in. And some of our ancestors, we had the blood of your blood. Your people had the blood of our blood. And we know this. And as I had the opportunity to travel all over the country, as American Indian, we were treated just like you people, especially in the North. You know, they call you what you call Christians. You know, the Christians all say, oh, they'll shake your hand, and 5 minutes later they're talking about you. But I can't help that. I can't help that. But there are ignorant people. I don't put myself down with them, shaking your hand, and then 5 minutes later they're talking about you, don't want you around. That's where they are. And I travel that. My brother traveled that. My brother retired. I think he's 70 years old now. And he was a leader of our nation. And you talk about organized. You talk about the people, our own people went against him. And that's what you got to watch out. People within, right within, will destroy ourselves. We destroy each other with your organizing. Get your act together, like the man said. Be together. And always operate from here. Don't operate from here. Do what this says here. And like the brother said, you'll know. He'll know. Everyone will know where you're coming from. We have that today in our nation. We have one of the, I think it's the second or third largest Indian nation in the country now. And we're getting rapidly growing bigger and bigger. But all our trouble is coming within, because they don't know the history. They don't know. They want to be somebody else. Ourselves. The the words that were here tonight, I wish I had 4 or 5 of my brothers sitting here listening to this man here talk. Because this is what we need. We need somebody to give us that shot in the arm, or whatever it takes, or a shot in the heart, or whatever it takes to get us going. And get up. Like you say, get up and stay up. We do the same thing. We get all riled up. Ready to go. And I have a sister. I'm very proud of my sister. I'm the youngest of 9 children. Washington, and there's a big senator from Arizona, and he gave the impression that we came there to beg again. Like they all say, we're beggars. We're not beggars. We're a proud people. So she got in an argument with this senator. Oh, what do you people do here? What can I do? He kind of made it believe that we're coming here to beg. What do you mean? We come in here for our rights. And they started arguing. An argument. Pretty soon. The senator said, oh, you ought to apologize to me. She said, you ought to apologize to me. We're the landlords of this country. And the 5 people that are on our panel, like you say, they sat back, and they came back and disciplined my sister, because she had to stand up and talk for what he puts on his pants just like anybody else. He's no better than us. Because they're holding that position. They think they are. They're not. They get up in the morning, they put their pants on the same way we do. They ain't different. But that senator said, you ought to apologize to me. I'm a Vietnam veteran. I told my sister, I said, well, that's your fault. That's your problem. But they think I'm so proud. Like you say, I read a little bit of the history of Vietnam and that country. But my sister got up, but our people don't know their own history. They came back and took my sister off that path. The ignorances get you in trouble. Remember that. As to say, like the man said last week, Saturday night, I didn't take too much time, but I remember this man distinctly. He said, read your history. And that's all we could learn by it. And when you read our history, you read your history, our history. Like a lot of times I travel out the country and somebody asks me what kind of Indian I am. Why should I tell them? They don't know anyhow if I told them. I get sick and tired of listening to that. Because I know, I said, well, I said, what do you know about the history of this country? How many tribes do you know of? There's 22,000 different tribes in this United States. So, but tonight, I'm glad to be here, and I like this poster, and I like these flags here on the wall here tonight. And the only thing I could leave, I really remember and read everybody's history. Don't just read your own history, read everybody else's history, like the man said. I'm going to tell you a little story. My aunt, she was a government. She came south. She went to Hampton. They brought all the Indian people from throughout the west and north. Hampton, Virginia, they said. I think that's where it is. There's a big school there. And a lot of your people came back. When they left, they came back. And she always told me, and I was just a young man, and I couldn't figure it out right away, but she was telling me, you never marry out of your race. And I was wondering, what was she talking about? But after I grew up, I found out real quick. And I tell my kids that. I got 7 children. I told every one of my children, you stay in your race, don't go out. So all my children got my blood in them. They might be different tribes, but they still got my blood. That's right. I don't cross that line. That's what I believe in. And that's what I was told. So I always respect my elders. That's another thing. Always respect your elders. They might not be educated. They might not have had a chance to get educated. that they got more wisdom than you ever could comprehend. Remember that. Always respect your elders, what they have to say, because they travel the road longer than we ever will. Even though we're in a jet age, they still travel that faster. They know. So I'd like to thank you for coming here tonight. Thank you. We'd like to thank Brother Eugene Powers of the American Indian.
We have a dynamic speaker, Kwame Ture, also previously known in his early years as Stokely Carmichael. A little brief, I'm sure everyone here knows Brother Ture. I first met the brother in Los Angeles when I was the president of the Black Student Union at my previous institution before I transferred here. And he spoke, and I joined at that time I already joined the party, our African People's Revolutionary Party, and I was a member of a study group. And I was reading Wretched of the Earth and other books by Du Bois, and instilled in me the necessary political awareness that I needed to further myself in my education. So this led me into studying more conscious, I guess you'd say, books and becoming more aware of the political situations in America and around the world. It escalated to a point where I understood that it was an international struggle that we're in. And then I joined the Brotherhood of Kemet, which is an African brotherhood here in Atlanta, and continued my struggle on. But the foundation came from, my political awareness came from the party. So after this event, if you're interested, there will be an announcement of when the next study session will be, and for those who want to study with the party. A brief, I'd like to thank the Computing Club here in West Brown, Historical Society, and the African People's Revolutionary Party, along with the student government, who put together the monies to bring Kwame Ture here tonight. I want that to go unnoticed. Kwame Ture was at one time the chairman of the Black Panther Party, and also the Students for Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, I believe it's SNCC. He then went overseas and became part of the All African People's Revolutionary Party as he studied under Kwame Nkrumah and Sekou Ture. He now lives in Africa, but he's a freedom fighter who travels all across the world for the liberation of African people. I won't say any more. His history speaks for itself. Pan-Africanism, the solutions that many of us as African people must seek to study the afflictions that we have here. I bring to you now Kwame Ture.
We thank you very much. We want to thank the students for inviting us. This is not the first time we've been to Morris Brown. As a matter of fact, I can't remember how many times I've been to Morris Brown. When the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee had its office in Atlanta, that would be 1960 to about 1967. And as a student at Howard University, I came frequently to Atlanta while working with SNCC. And we did many forays onto the campus of Morris Brown trying to recruit students to these struggles for our people. So this has been our task, constantly coming to Morris Brown to try and get the most conscious amongst you who are not caught up in the irrelevancies of life, in the frivolities to which capitalism directs you, for those of you who want to really do something to help your people. So tonight I come in the same vein. And I organize for the All African People's Revolutionary Party, and our party is a Pan-Africanist party. It has chapters all over the world. We have chapters in the United States, in Canada, in England, in the Caribbean, and of course throughout Africa. So as a Pan-African party, we're strong here, we're weak here, sometimes we fall down here, sometimes we get up here. But we've been doing not too well in Atlanta, and we've been making a lot of forays into Atlanta and doing a lot of work. So tonight, the purpose for my being here is to get the 5 most conscious students sitting before me to come and join our party. Let me tell you something. Our task is to always qualify our people's struggle. The struggle can only be qualified by critically organizing quantity. The capitalist system will confuse us into advancement, only make progress when there's quantitative advancement. If, for example, you take a child at the age of 2 and teach them to count to 100, and they do it, this of course is great. We're very proud of the child. If at 4 years old the child now counts to 1,000, this certainly is oppressive. But if at 21 the child is counting to 1,000,000 and cannot critically organize these numbers, then the child is mentally retarded. It is only through critically organizing quantity that we get quality. When this child, who can count from 1 to 100, learns to critically organize these figures, that is to multiply, to divide, to add, and to subtract, this ability to critically organize these numbers, this quantity, will have a qualified effect upon the life of the child. They can lay out fields, they can go to the moon. It is only through quality that we make advancements. If you will look, the capitalist system has a sing-song. It sings since the 60s, telling us about how much progress we've made. You know, before you had no mayors, now you have 300, quantity. Before you had no students in white universities, now you got X number, quantity. Before you had no people playing basketball on television, now you got quantity. Before, if you look very carefully, all the progress that they put to us is quantitative advancement. And certainly all of us know that this quantitative advancement has had no qualified effect upon the lives of the masses of our people. As a matter of fact, with more African mayors, the conditions are worse than they were before. Get confused into thinking that quantity makes progress. For human beings, only quality, and you get quality from critically organizing quantity. You get quality from critically organizing quantity. Now, as a people, you know, as a people who are not organized, therefore not critically organizing any quantity that we advance, we also get caught up in making advancement in our struggles through quantitative advancement. If you will look at what's in 1965, you will see that the Africans there rebelled against an act of police terrorism in 1965. It was the biggest rebellion this country had seen. In 1992, these same Africans rebel after the Rodney King rebellion. The rebellion is quantitatively greater. But the power relationship between the people and the police force not only remains the same, it seems that the police force becomes stronger. Therefore, if you're not careful, you might think your people are making progress, but all they're doing is making quantitative advancement, which is not progress. In 1965, we rebelled because of an act of police terrorism. In 1992, we rebelled because of an act of police terrorism. And look, how worse it is. In 1965, when we rebel, they take an African, Tom Bradley, and they make him mayor. Now, this Tom Bradley comes from the police force in Los Angeles. He was a lieutenant in the police force. This is where they pulled him from to make him mayor. Now what? We have an African mayor, quantitative progress, and the same incident we happened in 1965, police terrorism against an African, occurs in 1992 against an African, with an African mayor in position, and there's absolutely nothing he can do about it at all. We want qualitative progress in order to advance our people's struggle. It is in this light I come to speak to you tonight. Now, of course, I must tell you that I have certain assumptions which you must understand. Because if you do not understand my assumptions, you will not understand my conclusions. I do not want you to agree with my conclusions necessarily. I want you, however, to understand the assumptions which I use to arrive at these conclusions. Now, the first assumption I have is that any brother and sister today in school who sees the way that people are suffering everywhere actually feel that they have a responsibility to help their people. This is my first assumption now. This is my first assumption. And I can tell you that as a revolutionary, I did not come to revolution through the ranks of the workers. I came to revolution through the ranks of the intelligentsia. I came to revolution through the same path that you were taking. Therefore, when I speak to you from my experience, which you are now going to experience. I say that I would assume that any brother or sister in America today, anywhere in the world, any African student, seeing all the problems that their people face everywhere, they must think that they have a responsibility to help their people. If they do not think they have a responsibility to help their people, they are against their people and are totally living out of the culture of their people. Okay, those are my assumptions now. Those are my assumptions. Of course, I have one general assumption, and that is that there's only one fundamental purpose of education, and that is to alleviate the sufferings of humanity. All right. Now, my assumptions about, those are general assumptions now, but when I talk about African students, it's more particular. For African students, I figure that they know they have a responsibility to help their people. Now, the capitalist system can confuse them. Let me give you an example. We said that we've made a lot of quantitative advancements since the 1960s. For example, in Atlanta, when I was working here for the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, I did not even conceive that an African could become mayor of Atlanta in my lifetime. It was out of my conception. You understand? Of course, it means nothing, but it was out of my conception, just to show you how fast we move as a people. Because it's your ideas that you move. It's in your ideas that you move. So today, of course, there's an African mayor in Atlanta. So we are told that we have made progress, because now he wasn't there before, but now he's there. So this man who now becomes mayor, he might actually believe that he became mayor because he was intelligent, because he knew how to wheel and deal with the politics in Atlanta, because he might tell all these reasons. So he might think that he's really there because of his own individual worth and talent. This confusion, because the capitalist system has to confuse us. And oppressed people only make history by fighting against their oppressor. And oppressed people only make history by fighting against their oppressor, not by integrating with their oppressor. Not by integrating with their oppressor. And the capitalist system will so confuse us that when we integrate, they call that a victory. So, for example, when the first African becomes mayor of Atlanta, they say, oh, first African to mayor of Atlanta, this is great, you know. And this poor fool might think, oh, I really did this. But the real struggle was the people who shed their blood for him to become mayor of Atlanta. The only reason he became mayor of Atlanta was because the people shed their blood. Therefore, the position which he occupies does not belong to him, but belongs to the blood of the people and must be used to advance the struggles of the people. So we have to give you our assumptions now, so you can see them carefully. Of course, what we say about them is true in its concrete examples. Marion Barry was my first boss. Marion Barry, who's now the mayor of Washington, was the first chairperson of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. And I'm going to tell you something about Marion Barry. He was a rough brother. He was there during the time of nonviolence, and I'd see him get knocked down off of stools. We'd all be there. We'd get tired, and we'd drag back. We want to leave it. And Marion said, I thought you all elected me as your leaders, and we did. Well, then I'm getting out, you know, I'm going out there if I'm leaving myself, and I'm getting back on that stool. I'm going out there. So we have no choice but to follow him back out. Marion was a rough brother. Now, of course, when Marion became mayor, we had some discussions. I told him, well, you know, that one is not just for me. You know, everybody, I guess, chooses a path in which they will make their contribution. I knew I couldn't do nothing with that one, so that wasn't for me. But I told him that I thought that most of the people who were mayors would make a big mistake. And the mistake they made is that they thought power was execution and implementation. Power is conception. Power is conception. So I imagined that they thought that since they were mayor, they could now wheel and deal and they had power, but power is conception. What happens to these people, brothers, when they become mayors, is that they tell the people, okay, I'm going to take care of everything, I'm the mayor, everything is cool, stop struggling. The biggest mistake. That's the biggest mistake they make. What they should say to people is that now we got the position of mayor, we're going to use this position to struggle harder and struggle more to get further advances. But we say their conception is incorrect. For example, the other day, of course, during the time when Barry was mayor, we had contact, we spoke all the time. When he was arrested for a crack, we spoke, we discussed some things. Since then, we've been speaking all the time. And recently I spoke to him, I will meet him next week again. But when speaking with him recently, he was telling me he had a lot of problems. What are your problem, Marion? Well, the federal government won't give us this money. I said, you got no problem. I said, the only problem is that you allow the conception of mayor by the capitalist system to bind you to the position which you hold. I said, if I was me, I wouldn't have no problem. He said, oh, you always got to answer. I said, of course I got to answer. I said, if I was me, you know what I'd do? I said, Marion, I know you. When you were much younger, you were arrested everywhere in the South for contributing to the delinquency of minors. That charge was a result of your organizing high school students in the South to face police dogs. And you did it. You say you were a kid then. I imagine you know more now as an elder man. I said, if I were you, I'd just pick up the phone. I'd call Clinton. I'd tell him, listen, I need X number of dollars. If I don't get it in X number of hours, I'm filling the streets with high school students in nonviolent protests, and I'm blocking Washington, D.C. Nothing moves in the Capitol till I get it. And you can start by arresting me. If I got arrested for crack, I could get arrested for beating people. So the question is one of conception. One of conception. If you're a student in the American capitalist system and you become a student and you accept the conception, you're finished. The conception is that knowledge becomes private property, just like everything else in a backward society. Not only is it private property, it becomes a commodity. Now, you know the capitalist system is a vicious system. We will never tire of saying that because it's the truth. It is a vicious system. No system can make human beings a commodity. But the capitalist system, which makes everything a commodity, will make us a commodity, put us on an auction block and sell us as chattel slaves. Consequently, if the capitalist system will make human beings a commodity, it will also make education a commodity. It will also make education a commodity. And if you're not careful, you will be acquiring education just as a commodity to be able to sell it on the marketplace to advance yourself individually and forget about the people whose blood put you where you are. So you must come clearly to see the assumptions that we have. Fine. First assumption is that any human being, see another human being in trouble, should help them. See them suffering, should try to help them. But students who acquire knowledge have a special responsibility here because this knowledge doesn't come from individuals, it comes from the people, and these students must use the knowledge to help alleviate the sufferings of their people. Thirdly, as African students, there's even more responsibility here because everything we get in this country, we shed our blood for. Everything. No one sitting in this room can show me one advancement, even quantitative, which we have made as a people in this country for which we did not shed our blood, not one. To sit in a filthy 5 and 10 cent store, we must shed our blood. To sit on the bus where we want to sit just like everybody else because we pay the same fare like everybody else, we must shed our blood. If you want to live in any community in this country and you're African and you got the money and you want to live there, you got to shed your blood. I mean, just to get the vote, which every foreigner gets just automatically, we've got to shed our blood. Therefore, no one sitting in this room can show me any advancement our people have made in this country without shedding blood. Not one. Therefore, the history of the African in this country is clear to the student. My people have shed their blood for everything. If all they're asking me to do is to give up some time to help advance them as a student, really, if I do not do this, I should be cursed. I should be seriously cursed. We come here to get 5 of you who are the most conscious. Now, this aspect of consciousness must be properly understood. Of course, as a revolutionary, for us, consciousness is what counts, because the more conscious a people are, is how we make revolution. Now, consciousness comes from conscience. Consciousness comes from conscience. And conscience is what gives the great moral distinction between animals of the lower form and human beings. That is to say, animals cannot choose values. Human beings can. Now, you must know something about this conscience. Every human being has it, and it is an innate. It is an innate moral regulator. It is an innate moral regulator. That is to say, if your teacher, your preacher, your mother, your father never told you that you should not cheat, you know that cheating is incorrect because your conscience will tell you so when you cheat. It is a moral regulator. Now, you must not think that conscience just affects the immaterial aspect of life, the values and ethics of life. It actually affects your body in a biological way. You know, in most Western countries today, they do what we used to do in Africa centuries ago, but they do it now with a machine. They have what they call a lie detector machine. They can put this lie detector to you, and they can ask you questions, and if you're lying, they can detect. And the reason they can detect is because the adrenaline gland, when you lie, it excretes more adrenaline than normally. So it's abnormal, and by testing the flow of it, they can actually tell that you are lying. So when you lie, it doesn't just have an immaterial aspect of the lie, it has an effect upon your body. It has a proper effect upon your body. So this conscience now, this conscience is what gives us conscience. In a system where you want to keep people oppressed, you must give them false consciousness. Now let me show you what false consciousness is. Now, oh, I forgot. You know, I have one assumption I must tell you. You know, people tell me, they say, you know, I'm so disencouraged, I'm so discouraged, I don't see how come you don't get frustrated, or how come you don't get discouraged. Because I know I'm going to win. I know. Now, the norm I'm going to win is not based on faith. Don't think that at all. This is revolution. And revolution is a science. It's precise. As a matter of fact, errors in my work of life are fatal. Therefore, when I say I'm going to win, don't think I'm just saying that because I'm a revolutionary and I think I got to win. No, we're going to win. All people fighting against oppression will win. You know why? Listen to me carefully. Because the even if the struggle is unjust, you must lie to the people and let them think it's a just struggle. Let us take the enemies of humanity. Let us bring forward Hitler. When Hitler brought the Nazis together to dominate the world, he didn't tell them, hey, listen, we're going to come together and rip off the world. Everybody take what they want. We're going to do what? No. He said, we have been unjustly treated. The European powers have stripped of us everything that belongs to us. They have reduced us to the life of a savage, like in Africa. We're just another colony. We must take back that which justly belongs to us. You heard the word justly. Therefore, Hitler, in bringing the Nazis together, even though they were committing unjust acts, had to preach to them just reasons for their unjust actions. A few years ago, the United States of America was at war with Vietnam. Ho Chi Minh, a great man who's made a tremendous contribution to humanity, used to tell the Vietnamese people, you're fighting for justice, you're fighting for freedom, you're fighting for democracy. Lyndon Baines Johnson, the President of the United States of America, when calling American troops together to send them to fight in Vietnam, would say to them, you're fighting for freedom, you're fighting for justice, you're fighting for democracy. Somebody must be lying somewhere. But what is important here is to show you that people come together around just instincts and come quickly together around just instincts. And you can see this from your own history. Why, your people have just instincts that make them produce action that shocks the world. Look at the Rodney King Rebellion. It's based on just instincts that they came together when the policemen were released, refusing to accept this act of injustice, and together they just rebelled. So I know that we are going to arrive at justice based on our just instincts. And this is just instincts for everyone. Consequently, when I say we're going to win, I'm not giving you some rhetoric. I'm not giving you some little I'm telling you we're going to win because scientifically we're going to win. Show me anywhere people have been oppressed where they didn't fight. Show me anywhere where they do not continue to fight irrespective of the length of time. Of course, you may not know the fight is going on and therefore think the fight is not going on. For example, many people in this country think that the indigenous people of this country, the American Indians, are no longer fighting. I don't know why they think that. Well, some of their greatest warriors sit in jail right now, held in prison by the American capitalist system, such as Leonard Peltier, who's been in jail for 19 years. Anywhere you'll find the people that are struggling. So we struggle. Now we struggle on two levels, the conscious level and the unconscious level. The level of instinct and the level of reason. The struggles we've been involved in the past have been instinctive struggles. They have been spontaneous struggles. They have been unorganized struggles. You, as students, have a responsibility to transform your people's struggle from quantitative advancement to qualified advancement. You, as students, have a responsibility to transform your people's struggle from unconscious struggle to conscious struggle, from temporary struggle to permanent struggle, from unorganized struggle to organized struggle. We say that we get quality by critically organizing quantity. We are going to win because of the instinctive love of justice that the people have. And nobody proves this better than us. Kwame Nkrumah says, you do not judge a people by the heights they've achieved, but the depths from which they've come. Anytime we look at the history of us, see where we've come from with nothing and where we are today, you must be a fool to think we're not going all the way. You just look at your people's history and you will see that, you know, they did all this, they came from slavery to this point. Oh, what's going to stop us now? What? Drugs? Give me a break. If that was our only enemy, we could sleep through this one. Yes. Your people have come through too much to even think about sitting down. You have this responsibility. Now, you can get false consciousness. I gave an example of it. Hitler gave the Nazis false consciousness. He let them actually think that they were involved in a just struggle when they're involved in an unjust struggle. The Americans who sent young men to die in Vietnam gave them a false consciousness. They let these young people in America think they were going to Vietnam to fight for equality, to fight for justice, to fight for freedom, when in fact they were not. They were going there to fight for the interests of capitalism. Therefore, here too, they were given a false consciousness. So you can be given a false consciousness. Let me show you how it works for us. Africans in this country are brutalized and oppressed. I mean, seriously oppressed, seriously brutalized. And do you know Africans in this country are the first ones to defend America when she's attacked? You see the false consciousness? You see the false consciousness? With all that we suffer, our minds are so distorted by capitalism that we should be the first ones to leave America. We're the last ones to even look to Africa. I mean, when you look at the Europeans who came to this country voluntarily, they left Europe voluntarily. In their conception, they thought they were coming to a better life, whether they were fleeing religious persecution or fleeing jails. Therefore, every European which left Europe coming to America left so voluntarily, thinking that they were going to get a better life. No African, not even the biggest Uncle Tom today, could think that when we left Africa in a slave ship that we were coming to any place other than hell. And we started in hell, and we're still in hell. Now, Europeans who left look back to Europe. They left voluntarily, but they look back. Africans who were dragged out against their will are one of the worst, horrendous conditions that humanity's ever seen. They don't even want to look back to Africa. False consciousness is everywhere. Your job as students is to destroy it and give your people true consciousness. Now, let me tell you something about consciousness. Since it's come from conscience, conscience can only develop in the truth. Conscience can only develop in the truth. Anytime you're living a lie, you're denying conscience. For example, as students, you instinctively know you should not cheat. Instinctively know it. Yet, if you cheat, you're denying conscience. If you cheat, you're denying conscience to grow. If you do not cheat and you become honest to struggle, then conscience really grows. Consciousness grows only in the truth. Of course, you can get false consciousness, as Hitler himself said. He was a master at it. Hitler said, you can tell a lie 1,000,000 times. The people will come to think it's the truth. Revolutionaries say, you can tell the truth a couple of times. It will smash 1,000,000 lies. And this, of course, is a fact, thanks to the instinctive love of justice. Once you hear the truth, you understand, you may not, well, you know it's the truth. You got to admit it's the truth. I mean, even if you lie to your mother and she doesn't know you lied to her, you know you lied to your mother. You know you lied to your mother. So consciousness is always there and it must develop in the truth. Therefore, the only way our people, hear me well, can develop our consciousness is when the truth is advocated. But everywhere the enemy lies to us, everywhere. And you know, people get confused. The indigenous people of this country, the American Indians, say capitalism does not lie some of the time. It lies all of the time. When it tells the truth, it's the result of a double lie, and that's the truth. That's the truth. This system lies everywhere. Therefore, if you want consciousness, it means that you have to fight against the system on every level. We go step by step. The conscious brother, a conscious sister who wants to help the people and know that the people must live in truth, knowing that the people's history is nothing but lies, knowing that the people's history is nothing but lies, as taught in America, will do everything to find the truth of the people's history. So therefore, if you are a truly conscious brother and sister, you are doing everything to find the truth. And let me tell you something, as a student who came through your ranks into the role of revolutions, let me tell you that you have to go and get the truth for yourself in America. It's not given to you. Not on CNN, not on rap records, not anywhere. You have to go and dig it up and get it yourself. So anytime you're not looking outside of your curriculum, you're not a conscious student. Anytime you're not looking outside of your curriculum, you are not a conscious student. Because a conscious student understands precisely in actions the words of Frederick Douglass, where there is no struggle, there is no progress. And conscious students do not run away from struggle, they run to struggle, and the most conscious runs to the most difficult struggle. Of course, as students, you must understand this. You take a conscious student in biology, the one who runs away from the difficult problems in biology will never master biology. It is she who runs to the difficult concepts of biology, fights with them, struggles with them, and masters them that will make advancement in biology. Therefore, the conscious student, understanding in living reality the words of Frederick Douglass, does not run away from struggle, but runs to struggle. Of course, even in doing that, you must fight the capitalist system. You know, it is so backward that it can convince students that they must struggle for a little while, and after they struggle, they can sit down and enjoy life. They don't do nothing else no more. So there's some students that actually think that, well, I got to go to Morris Brown, I got to read for 4 years, but after I get my degree, I don't have to read another book again in my life. You see it. Harriet Tubman showed us that one takes struggle to the grave. And if Frederick Douglass said, where there's no struggle, there's no progress, and we must make progress till we die, listen to this, struggle is eternal. Well, speaking of conscious men and women, a stupid man, a stupid woman may think that she who consumes the most and produces the least is a successful man or woman. This is acting like an animal. Animals cannot produce, they can only consume. A conscious human being must know that they must produce more than they consume because they have to leave something for those who come after them. Therefore, the conscious student is looking to produce more than they consume, looking again to live in truth. We say the truth is that the capitalist system lies to the people about their history. Therefore, it is a job of the conscious student to find the people's history and to give the people their history and to give them the truth of their history. We say power begins on the level of conception. The reason why we have all the trouble we have as a people in this country is because we have no conception of our people as a people. Therefore, to kill each other means absolutely nothing. Anyone talking other than that knows nothing of what they speak. The only reason we do this is because we have no conception. It is the job of the intelligentsia to give the people a conception of themselves. Of course, everyone has a task. You may live up to your task or not live up to your task, but do not think you do not have a task. As students, you have a responsibility. Your task, we say, is to qualify your people's struggle. You may not live up to the task, but do not think you don't have a task, therefore betraying the task. It is clear here, when we say you have a responsibility to come to qualify the struggles of the people. Africa is not held up anywhere. Our people are ashamed of Africa. Ashamed of Africa. Africa ain't ever produced no Nazis. Ashamed of Africa. Who is Africa oppressed? I mean, they're so confused that this capitalist system just makes everything backwards. You know, if you listen to the press in this country, you will think the poor are criminals and the rich are saints. I mean, everybody know the rich are criminals. Matter of fact, if you're rich, you're automatically criminal. The poor are not criminals. The poor are supposed to make revolution. But they're going to have you so confused that you think the poor must be criminals and not make revolution. The poor are going to make revolution. And they're going to make it against the criminal rich. And they're going to strip the criminal rich of what he criminally accumulated. This is clear. It happens everywhere in every country. People are ashamed of Africa. Why are they ashamed of Africa? Because of the lies. What is the job of the student? Is it not your job to give your people their history? The truth of their history? And how will you know the truth of your people's history if you're not going outside of a curriculum which is made to keep your conception against your people? Simply put, the conscious student understands that they must do extra work to advance their people's struggle. Simply put, the conscious student understands that they must do extra work to help advance their people. We said the conscious student is happy to do this. Which student is not happy to sacrifice for the people? We all clap at Martin Luther King. When we clap at Martin Luther King, we must know what we're doing. We're saying, I too wish I could take a bullet for my people. This is precisely what we're saying. I too would like the honor to be able to die for my people. This is precisely why we clap for Martin Luther King, whether we know it or not. Otherwise, why else do we clap? Because he's a movie star? We clap for King because we want to be like King. We clap for King because King did what we're supposed to do. But if we clap for King and leave it like that, obviously we're not serious. Obviously we're not serious. Who would not want to sacrifice for their people? Who, given the honor to sacrifice for their people, will not rise to the occasion? It's only a people completely distorted their thinking by a vicious capitalist system that would not do that. You students have a golden opportunity. An opportunity to serve your people. And some of you missed this opportunity, simply confused by the capitalist system, trying to get a car, a house, a this, a that, rather than working for your people seriously. We come to get the conscious. We come to get those conscious students, the ones who want to take the extra time to learn their history. And I'll tell you what, the student who has a proper conception of themselves will be the best academic student on the campus. The other day I saw a student tell me, Brother Kwame, I gotta do physics, and it's difficult for us. Us who? Us, we go to basketball and all that, we might even get by with math, but physics, we can't do physics. Why? People gave physics to the world. Once you know that your people gave physics to the world, you have a responsibility to add to the contribution which your people made. It's a question of conception. Who will teach them this, if not you? But I say you must look for it. What the capitalist system does to these students is pathetic. They have the ability to help their people and not even see how to, they're not even concerned about helping their people. You must come to get the history of Africa. The African People's Revolutionary Party in our program gives the history of Africa to our country. It must be properly studied, properly discussed, properly analyzed, because the job of our party is to spread the history of our people to the masses of our people. To let them know what the great things that Africa have done. I don't see how any student cannot be proud of Africa if they studied anything about world history or world civilization. Because Africa has made contributions to every area of world history and world civilization. Therefore, your task must be spreading this, even in the area of Christianity alone. Why, when you tell your people what Africa has done to Christianity, they, being great Christians, will be great Africans. Proud to be Africans. When Jesus Christ, peace be upon his name, was in trouble and everybody wanted to kill him, who gave him refuge? Only Africa. Only Africa. It was here where he grew up in his youth. And it was only here that he can grow up understanding what he did, because Africa had already, centuries before the birth of Jesus Christ, peace be upon his name, given monotheism, belief in one God, to the world. Centuries. It was centuries before his birth. Therefore, when he came into Africa, he could breathe in, monotheism, belief in one God. He can even through osmosis get the spirituality that Africa had to offer. The first country mentioned in the Bible, Genesis 2, verse 13, is Africa. Genesis 2, verse 13. If you just do statistical history of the Bible, Egypt and Ethiopia is mentioned more than any other country in the Bible, starting with Israel. These are just statistical facts. The first church in the world came out of Africa. The first monastery in the world came out of Africa. The very intellectual development of the church came out of Alexandria, which is in Egypt, which still is in Africa. Well, they're always trying to pull it out. And I don't see how people get confused. The sister properly said, the further back you go into Egypt's history, the blacker it becomes. And that is absolutely clear. Absolutely clear. You have a responsibility here. Once Africans know of Africa's contribution to Christianity, those who are Christians will not be proud. Therefore, your job is already established. It is you who must educate the masses of your people. It is you who have the task of educating the masses of the people. We have been working with the intelligentsia for a long time, those of us who are revolutionary. We know that the African intelligentsia is the most corrupt in the world. They're the most corrupt because the African bourgeoisie is the most corrupt in the world. I mean, it's the most corrupt. When you see the people that we have all over the world in positions of leadership over us, you know there's nothing but the scum of our race. They are corrupt, as corrupt as you can get. And the African intelligentsia is fighting to join the bourgeoisie, therefore they're already corrupted. But the struggle which we wage with you is one which will give you no peace. Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois waged the same struggle. He said that you were the talented tenth. And that as a talented tenth, you had a responsibility to help the 90% who sacrificed for you to get here and to help them. But you've never looked back at them. The talented tenth always keeps looking forward. We come tonight to get the 5 most conscious of you. Those of you who realize that you have a responsibility to your people. And that this responsibility to your people can only be fulfilled in a systematic, daily manner. In a systematic, daily manner. You cannot fight the police of Atlanta once in a while. They oppress us every day. The police department never takes a vacation. They operate for 24 hours. They eavesdrop on the entire community, They eavesdrop on the entire community. They follow the entire community. They have all our records there 24 hours a day. Now they got computers. When they want to check out what you're doing, they just punch a button with your name for 24 hours. In 1965, when we revolted in Watts, the police worked for 24 hours up to 1992. If we revolt in 65, sit down, and revolt again in 92, and sit down, that's all we will be doing. Revolting and sitting down. Revolting and sitting down. Revolting and sitting down. We must revolt, get up, and stay up, and go from revolt to revolution. It's the only solution. It's the only solution. You have this responsibility. We say that you must bring out the history of Africa so that your people become proud. Not only must you show the people the history of Africa to make them proud, you must show them that we as a people will only get where we're going when we are consciously organized. When we are consciously organized. Of course, the conscious student understands the necessity of organization. You know, some Africans are so backward. The other day I said one, brother, I want you to come on, help us, man. People in trouble. I want you to help those people. We try to organize them. People, what they ever do for me? Have they ever done anything for me? No, they just taught you how to teach, speak, so you can insult them. That's all. That's all. They taught you how to speak. That's all. So you can insult them. That's all. Your people, everything you have, you work for people. The conscious student knows this. The conscious student may be confused by American capitalism, which takes individualism to ludicrous heights like Rambo and Superman, and may think that they are going to lead the people. That's nonsense. As a matter of fact, if you just look at the character of your people's history, you will see this is nonsense. We have a mass character in struggle. They will say in 1960 the movement was led by Dr. Martin Luther King. In the next breath they will say the mass movement. Everywhere you look, you will see our struggle is mass in character. We can give it to you in one sentence. From slave revolts to urban rebellions, mass in character. Of course, this struggle, which is mass in character, is unorganized and spontaneous. This is the problem. This is the problem. We rise up, we get mad, and then we sit down, and even here Morris Brown, as jive as you all are, if some white people come up on this campus and make trouble with some brother or sister, for 2 weeks you ought to be hot. For 2 weeks, I mean hot. Even Uncle Tom, you've got to do something. And then after you will sit down, and let it pass, and wait again for the next incident. Your job as a conscious student is to examine your people's struggle and see how you can help to qualify it. If you look at our struggle, you see we're always reacting to the enemy. In 1965 in Watts, we reacted to police terrorism. In 1992 with Rodney King, we react to police terrorism. Reacting to the enemy doesn't stop the enemy. You must make the enemy react to you. And the only way this can be done is when you are consciously organized. This aspect of organization is clear now. Power comes only from the organized masses. Power comes only from the organized masses. Your people are a serious people in struggle. But now, you know, one learns many ways And your people learn through method of elimination. It is the slowest method to learn, but it is the surest. It is the slowest method to learn, but it is the surest. Your people have eliminated a lot of things that they've been told. The only thing they have not done is organize themselves. You must make a clear distinction between organization and mobilization. The enemy will confuse you here. I hear people telling me all the time, oh, Brother Kwame, I wish I was with you in the 1960s. You all were so organized. We were not organized. We were mobilized. You mobilize over issues. You organize over ideas. You mobilize over issues. You organize over ideas. And the 60s was nothing but mass mobilization, not organization. Even when you make the statement, it's made without the slightest examination of your people's history. The capitalist system confused some of them to let them think that they can think about their people's history without even studying their people's history. If you look very carefully, there were 5 major organizations that confronted the system in this country in the 60s. The NAACP, the Congress of President Kwame, and the Student Nonviolent Authority Committee. Of the 5, 3 were activist organizations. The Student Nonviolent Authority Committee, the Congress of President Kwame, and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. These were the 3 activist organizations that you had in the 1960s confronting the system. Listen to me carefully. Put the 3 together, and you don't have a membership of more than 2,000. Put the 3 together, and you don't have a membership of more than 2,000. I'm giving you a big, big figure. The Student Nonviolent Authority Committee had no more than 300, and they had the largest number. The Southern Christian Leadership Conference, Dr. King's organization, was an organization of preachers. They had less. And the Congress of Racial Equality had very few, while it was organized since 1944, had even less workers than the Student Nonviolent Authority Committee. So when you speak about being organized, you must be precise. Revolution is a science. It's not based on emotion. You don't get unity because you feel good. You get unity because you belong to an organization. You don't get unity because you feel good. You get unity because you belong to an organization. Therefore, there were no organization in the 60s. That's why it was so easy for the police to wreak havoc on them. And clearly it was easy. You had a mass movement coming up. It was rising. You had a responsibility. Give it direction towards the revolutionary path or try to safeguard your organization. Obviously, you can't do that. You'll lose your organization, but at least give the mass organization revolutionary direction. Therefore, if you look at the 60s, you had no organizations. As a people, we've not been organized. The closest we've ever come to being organized is when that great advancer of humanity, the Honorable Marcus Garvey, came to organize us. And anyone who knows anything about the history knows this organization was what brought all of the intelligent forces of the white world together against young Marcus Garvey to crush his movement.
That's right.
We have to know our history, and the conscious student knows their history. We have to become an organized people, and the conscious student has the responsibility to help organize the people. We are coming to our conclusion. We said the conscious student must live in truth. You cannot live in truth unless you create an environment of truth. Let me give you an example. If I'm a brother who takes drugs and I'm on drugs and I live on drugs, and someday I get touched by the hand of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad through the Nation of Islam, and I stop taking drugs, when I stop taking drugs, I don't hang out with the people who I used to hang out with who still take drugs. When I stop taking drugs, I'm with the FOI. I'm with the Fruit of Islam. When you see me, I'm clean. I'm doing karate. I'm getting all that stuff out of my system. I hang with people now who don't take drugs. I cannot not take drugs and hang with people who take drugs all the time. No, when you stop taking drugs, you hang with people who don't take drugs. The truth, conscience, can only grow in an environment of truth. Because if you're a conscious student, you cannot grow if you're among the unconscious. If you're a conscious student, you find yourself with the other conscious students, you organize yourself, and even in a few of you, this is where your consciousness grows. The conscious student cannot remain conscious outside of conscious activity, organized conscious activity. Therefore, anytime you think you're a conscious student and you do not belong to an organization and you think you know more than the others, you are just more unconscious than they are. Because she who knows more must do more. And if you know more, and all you know more is to show others that you know more and you don't do more, you know less than others. Consequently, when you know more, you must do more. We see it all the time, brother and sister on the campus. Oh man, last night, Brother Kwame was there. It should have been packed with only a few of us, but we were there. It was bad. We got down. Oh, you should have been there. Oh, you should have been there. No, I ain't gonna tell you what happened. You should have been there. That's unconscious. The job of the conscious is to make the unconscious conscious. The job of the conscious is to make the unconscious conscious. That's why the conscious student comes to organization. The conscious student understands that 3 or 4 students saying the same thing everywhere on the campus is more power than one separated from the other saying the same thing but without organization. Therefore, the conscious seek organization. We want 5 conscious students among you this evening. There's one other thing that we will tell you about the conscious. The conscious knows the struggle is forever, not for today, not when I'm a student. I leave it tomorrow. The conscious knows the struggle is forever. Even this is done in capitalist societies. You know, if you're in the army in the American capitalist system and you desert, you can be shot. Do you know if you're in the army in a socialist country and you desert, you should be shot? Deserters are shot. They must be shot. They're shot because they endanger the life of others. Look, you and I are in the army. We have to take a building. We say we're going to attack tomorrow morning at 4 o'clock in the morning. We have 50 people we've lined up. We need 50 to take this building. At 4 a.m. when we show up, there's only 45 of us. 5 have deserted. Well, we 45 are going to get killed. We need 50 to take the building. Well, since we're going to get killed, before they kill us, let's kill the 5 to put us in trouble to get killed. So deserters get shot. Now, you must know something. Anytime you start struggling for your people, which is voluntarily, and you put down the struggle, you have deserted the struggle, and you should be shot. Now, the African Revolution, hear me well, is the only revolution in which traitors struck with impunity. That's how weak we are. I mean, you have Mobutu, who killed Lumumba, who's head of Zaire, struck with impunity. You have brothers and sisters who will tell you, make television to view, I worked for the FBI against the Panthers in the 1960s and walked the streets with impunity. Yeah, the reason why that happens is because we're unorganized. We are unorganized, that's the reason it happens. Therefore, once the conscious is not unorganized, the unconscious reigns supreme. As a matter of fact, they even make publicity for young kids now to become snitches against us so they too can walk the streets after. So certainly if traitors shot with impunity, you know what happens to deserters. Deserters are even honored. I see people who come to speak to the people. They say, what you come for? Well, in the 60s I was doing this. In the 60s I was doing that. In the 60s I was this. In the 60s I was that. What you doing today? Well, in the 60s I did this. And the 60s I did that. What you doing today? And the 60s I was this. What you doing today? Well, I got tired. Shoot him. He's a deserter. Shoot him. He's a deserter. Because he has a profound effect upon the young coming up. The young might think you're just supposed to struggle for some time. The conscious knows that struggle is forever. You will always be making a contribution to your people, even when they're not oppressed. Do you not know that? Do you think you only make a contribution to your people when they're oppressed? On the contrary, it's when your people are not oppressed that you shall truly make a contribution to them, because your energy shall be directed towards that, not to fighting the enemy to make you make that contribution. Therefore, you will always be making a contribution to your people. Therefore, struggle is eternal. We say the conscious student understands properly Harriet Tubman. She took struggle to the grave, and so will that conscious student. Now we come to organization. Our party, the All African People's Revolutionary Party, is a revolutionary party. We are a revolutionary party. Our objective is Pan-Africanism, the total liberation and unification of Africa under scientific socialism. We are socialists. We know you're against it, but we're not worried about you. You don't know nothing about it. Matter of fact, American capitalism confuses you so much you don't even want to know. The other day I was talking about socialism. A man said to me, Brother Kwame, you still talking about socialism? I said, still talking about it. He said, yeah, you're a socialist? I said, of course I am. How come? Because I'm intelligent. What you think? He said, but Brother Kwame, you didn't hear about it? Hear about what? It died. What? Socialism. Where? You didn't hear about it? I must have been sleeping. No, you hear about what happened in Russia with Gorbachev? I said, oh, that's just betrayal, brother. Don't let it confuse you. No, socialism is finished. I said, it can never be finished. He said, but all of them, they all finished. They themselves their norms. I said, you don't judge a system by its adherence. You judge it by its principles. Capitalism will confuse it. Yeah, he's judging socialism by socialists. I told him, you don't judge socialism by socialists. You judge by its principles. He said, well, if you don't judge it by that, how are you going to judge it? I asked him, do you judge Christianity by Christians? Don't deform your thinking. You don't judge Christianity by Christians, you judge it by its principles. We don't even judge Christianity by the Pope. And certainly not by the preachers we got, because most of them are pimping for Cadillacs. We judge it by its principles. When you judge socialism, you don't judge it by Gorbachev. You judge it by its principles. Anyone can betray. If a system falls because of betrayal, Christianity would have fallen with Judas. People get confused because at least Judas had dignity. He hung himself. Gorbachev is still running around the world making speeches and picking up 30 pieces of silver when he finished speech. Yes, betrayal doesn't mean anything. Some people get confused about socialism. Brother told me he's supposed to be heavy now. Well, you know, tell the truth, you know, socialism is a white thing. The problem with you is that you do not understand that the particular history of Europe is never the universal history of the world. Now, Europe tries to make it appear as if everything that founded came out of Europe. It's your problem if you go for it. I mean, they even paint Jesus Christ white, peace be upon his name, and he never put his foot in Europe. So you see what they do? They try to make everything, so they make it appear as if they invented socialism. They can't invent socialism. It's a universal truth. Newton can't invent gravity. He can observe the laws of gravity. Karl Marx cannot invent the relationship between capital and labor. He can observe them, that's all. And anybody can make the same observation. Of course, in no way do we mean to belittle Karl Marx. No, he's a great man. I'm 53 years old. I've been reading him since I'm 16. I shall die reading him, and I invite everyone to read him. But you know, you don't read nothing. American people, they're really made stupid. I remember once when I was a young man, I was riding on an airplane. I was reading Hitler's book, Mein Kampf. You know, I was in an airplane reading it. So this woman next to me, she's come through all the hard I'm trying to read my book. And finally she said, why are you reading my book? I said, it was Mein Kampf by Hitler. So why are you reading the book? I said, well, I want to understand something about it. She said, well, I'm Jewish. I said, well, didn't you read it? I would figure that she'd be the first to read it. That's what I figured. The first law of war is to know the enemy. And I think everybody in America should have read Mein Kampf, because everybody knows about Hitler, don't know nothing about him, except what they would tell about him. And all it takes is one book to read, and college students don't even read them. And they're the first ones to tell you about him. Hitler did this, Hitler did that, never read a book by him. I say even Jews are told not to read the book by Hitler. Such stupidity. Such stupidity. I'm anti-Zionist. I'm anti-Zionist. I read books by Zionists. So I want to attack them. I know exactly where to go. I'm anti-capitalist. I read about capitalism. I know it inside out. I have to attack it. I have to destroy it. That's my job. You are students. You have a responsibility to organize your people. Our party is a revolutionary party. We're socialists. We're anti-capitalist. And Africa is our salvation. Hear us well. Hear us well. Africa is our salvation. Hear us well. This land belongs to the indigenous people of this country, the American Indians. It's that. Capitalism will confuse you with its immoral logic. I mean confuse you. They even have it legal. That means that if I steal something from you and I keep it for a couple of years and you don't find out about it, then it belongs to me. It's called statute of limitations. Could you imagine that? This is my boo-boo here that I'm wearing. If you kill me tonight and you take this boo-boo, it will never belong to you. Never belong to you. This land will never belong to anybody other than the indigenous people of this country. This is extremely important for us as Africans. One of the greatest crimes that an African can commit is to be ungrateful. In African culture, one of the greatest crimes you can commit is to be ungrateful. When we came to this country as slaves, the only, underline the word only, the only, underline the word only, the only place we found sanctuary and refuge was among the American Indians. Bear with us. They fought for us, we intermarried with them, we were mutually accepted by them. Even if you know nothing of your history, you must know about the Seminoles in Florida. Florida got swamps there, and Africans from all over Texas used to get there. And the Seminoles accepted us when we got there, as members of the Seminoles with total right and complete equality. The slave masters in the South were upset about this, and I don't know how these slaves were doing it, but they would come from faraway Texas. I don't know how they find their way, but they find those swamps of Florida. When you want freedom, nothing can get in your way. Andrew Jackson, you know, is an Indian killer. Just like all the Indian killers, starting with George Washington. All of them were Indian killers. Andrew Jackson went to the Seminoles. He said to the Seminoles, I want the slaves. The Seminoles said, we do not understand this word. It's out of our conception. Andrew Jackson said, you know me, I'm an Indian killer. I love to kill y'all, but I'm not coming to kill y'all this time. Just give over those Africans. Just give up the Africans and I'm gone. You know what the Seminoles told him? We are one people, all the people here. We know you have the power to destroy our nation, but we have no choice but to fight. Here's the tomahawk. They threw it down. They went to war. Their nation got destroyed for us. And people cannot be ungrateful. Today we must stand shoulder to shoulder with the American Indians as they struggle for their rights in this country. When we were down, they helped us. Now they're down, we must help them. It's only natural. Therefore, this land is their land. Africa is our land. I know you don't know about Africa, because even those of you who come to school just to get money, if you look at Africa, Africa is the richest continent on the face of the earth. I show you how capitalism makes them stupid. It makes them stupid. They think America is the richest country in the face. Africa is richer than America. Matter of fact, you can use America in the Sahara Desert of Africa alone. Because that's why even those who want money, they want money, but their thinking is so deformed they don't even look to Africa to even make some money. Of course, I don't want you to come to Africa to make money. I'm just showing you how the capitalist system has your mind so distorted that if you want to make money, they still not have you looking to Africa. But white folk go to Africa every day from this country. You know, white counterparts, when they graduate from college, all of them trying to get a piece of the action in Africa. And they have you not even looking at Africa. You know, people have to be organized. Africa is our salvation. It is the richest country on the continent on the face of the earth. When properly organized, it will be the most powerful, able to protect the people wherever they are and make a quick contribution towards world peace. We want you to join our party. We said we want the most conscious, but now, one last thing I forgot to tell you about consciousness now. To be conscious, you must love your people. To be conscious, you must love your people. And to love your people in this country is not easy. To love your people in this country is not easy, but to be conscious, you must love your people. And of course, as we always tell you, when you love someone, it's not by mouth, it's by action. When you love somebody, it's not by mouth, it's by action. And when you love somebody and they're in a lot of trouble, the only action you can make is to help get them out of the trouble. So our people are in a lot of trouble. If you love them, you must be making daily, underline the word daily actions to save your people in a systematic manner. You have a responsibility to help your people. Now let me tell you something about your people now. With or without your help, they're going to be victorious. Let me tell you something about your people. With or without your help, they're going to be victorious. You can be like a catalyst. You can come to speed up the process to reduce the sufferings of your people. But even if because of you, you don't help speed up the process, they take a long way with a lot of bloodshed, they're going to get there. So the only decision you have is, are you going to help your people speed up the process with less casualties to arrive at their objectives? That's the only question you have to ask yourself. Your people shed blood for nothing in this country. So they will shed blood for revolution. Of that you can be sure. You have a responsibility to help. For those of you who truly love your people, those of you who truly understand that we have a responsibility to organize our people, we invite you to come and join our table in the back. Our brothers and sisters there will take your name, come back and give you an orientation about our party. Those of you who do not come tonight to join our party, you have to join an organization working for your people. You have to join an organization working for your people. Now I'm going to sit down. Before I sit down, I want an ego trip on y'all for a while. An ego trip for you. You know, I'm a bad brother. I mean, I'm a bad brother. I've been fighting since I've been 16 consciously. Now I'm 53 and I've been hitting some heavy blows. I mean, left and right. I've been taking some heavy blows, you understand? But I've been giving some heavy blows. But you know, as bad as I am, I have never in all of my conscious life been outside of an organization. And I'm a bad brother. I'm a bad brother. When I was in Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, they were getting ready to expel me. Before they expelled me, I was honorary Prime Minister of the Black Panther Party. When I was in the Black Panther Party and saw the contradictions rising and knew that I had to resign, before I resigned, I was a member of the All-African People's Revolutionary Party. I have never in my life been outside of an organization, and I'm a bad brother. Matter of fact, all the bad brothers and sisters I know, all of them belong to organizations. Asante Shaku is one of the baddest sisters that came out of the 60s. One of the baddest sisters. She belongs to the Black Liberation Army. Still belongs to the organization. Angela Davis is a rough sister. Rough as you can get. She belongs to the organization. Rosa Parks sat down and made us get up. That's how rough she is. She belongs to the organization. Martin Luther King was a righteous preacher who everyone thought was by himself. He belonged to the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Nelson Mandela is a name that is a household name throughout the world. He belongs to the African National Congress. His wife, Winnie Mandela, who's now divorced, they've had trouble, they struggle. She belongs to the African National Congress. Malcolm X was dynamite. When Malcolm X left the Nation of Islam, he created two organizations, the Muslim Mosque Incorporated and the Organization of African American Unity. I do not know any brother, any sister who's done anything for the people, who's a bad brother, that didn't belong to organization. Y'all got to be some bad brothers and sisters, that y'all don't belong to no organization at all. Y'all got to be really bad. Because all the bad brothers and sisters I know belong to organization. Fidel Castro is rough. He belongs to the Cuban Communist Party. Kim Il-sung is rough as you can get. He belongs to the Korean Workers' Party. Mao Zedong shook the world. He belonged to the Chinese Communist Party. You can show me no great man, no great woman who's advanced humanity without belonging to an organization. You can show me no man, no woman who's advanced the struggle without belonging to an organization. Your people must be organized. We invite you to join ours, if not ours, any. But if you truly want to make a clear advancement to your people's struggle at this time, where it must be qualified, we must take this quantity and critically organize it into organizations so that we can rapidly advance. Your people's advancement, your people's rapid advancement is in your hands. You can either help them rapidly advance or do nothing and let them take the slow, agonizing path to victory. The decision is in your hands. Thank you. Ready for revolution.
I'm going to bring Kwame Ture back up to address questions that the audience may have.
Any questions? I'm fine, thank you. Can you speak louder so they can hear you? I'm sorry, I can't hear. We can all sing together, but not talk together.
I had an opportunity to attend the Mind Production Serving the People, starting a few weeks, right and law. And Bible Seal was there when he made the comments concerning Black Panther. Are you aware of the comments concerning?
No, I'm sorry, I'm not aware of that.
He made the comments concerning this organization. If you just really speak on that subject, as far as Bible Seal is things that in my personal relations, where his position is as far as revolution is concerned.
You can.
But just to say, the second point I like to make is,
I didn't understand it's considered a revolution, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
You said as far as revolution is concerned, but you didn't think.
He's saying that the revolution is he evolving, he's saying that he positive for our people now that he deserted our people, just your personal opinion. Secondly, Martin and people have an underground production play from the movie on Black Panther Party, so that you're aware of that and that's your personal comments on that.
I have not seen that either. As far as CETA is concerned, as long as it's an organization fighting for the people, if he's no longer in any organization, not doing anything, he's deserted the struggle. There's no question here. The law and personal. If he's not an organization working for the people, he's deserted the people. No question about it. But I have not seen the other movie. And one thing I must tell you about Huey Newton now, Huey Newton was killed by the police. Huey Newton was killed by the police. Huey Newton was killed by the police. And I don't think people should get confused about this. There's no question about this. The police control drugs in our community, and they control drug addicts. Next question.
Could you explain the New World Order and how it applies to Africans Americans and how we as students and graduates can best be?
Well, the New World Order is nothing but the same old world order trying to hold on to colonialism and exploitation. That's all it is. And we have to fight it every step of the way. The New World Order was proclaimed with the war in the Gulf. And since then they've been parading everywhere for New World Order. And America is not concerned with the interests of anyone except its own interest. And its own interest is nothing but profit. So I think that we're quite clear the New World Order means nothing but heightened profits. But we have heightened consciousness, therefore there will be heightened struggle.
Could you deal with the issue of economics and explain to me exactly whether or not the bond has been made between African Americans and Africans in order for them to go into the future to work towards making a living to go outside of the African system?
Well, unfortunately, I cannot answer your question because the approach which you give is one that I think is incorrect. I think first we have to make political unity before we look to economic unity. I think that people who have your persuasion make the error in thinking that Africa is poor. It is Africans that is poor, not Africa. What makes Africans poor is that they do not control their political destiny nor their continent, Africa. Let me give an example, even here in the United States. I'll give an example. We are told all the time that we are poor. Now listen to me carefully and tell me if you think it's true. I assure you that when we are organized, consciously organized as a people, and each and every one of us gives nothing more than 10 cents a week to one economic pot, there is no economic problem we will not be able to solve in this country among ourselves. What do you think?
Well, I agree with you on that. What I'm asking is, more specifically, is that if there's an individual who wants to work outside of the capitalist system, is there an apparatus in place for them to do so?
Well, if you want to work outside the capitalist system, you have to work in a socialist country. And of course, Libya is a strong socialist country in Africa, and they're very proud to have Africans come and work there, no question about it.
So, this is the last part. For pertaining to taking jobs in America, would you then say that any job is fit, or would you say any job is fit, or there are certain jobs that are unfit, being that they're all tied to the capitalist system?
They're all part of the capitalist system. We are forced to sell our labor to capitalism, just like we were in wage slavery, just like we were forced on the chattel slavery to work on the plantation for nothing. What makes the difference isn't the work we do, but the conception of the worker. If a slave has the conception that they're born to be a slave, they should be a slave, and the master is their best friend, they will pick cotton at night. If a slave knows that they're not supposed to be a slave, then they will do everything to sabotage cotton production. They'll break their hoe. They'll burn the plantation. They'll kill the master. They'll strike out for freedom. It's the same thing in the capitalist system. We're all forced to sell our labor to capitalism. And when they're selling it, either we think we're supposed to sell it, or we know we're not supposed to sell it, so while working, we make organization to overthrow it. Just like the slaves make organization to make a slave revolt on the plantation, even though they have to be there every day working. So it's a question of conception that you conceive that whatever job you do for your people. So like, if you got a big job at IBM, you understand, making a whole lot of money, they're working 8 hours a day, you should try to rip off all the materials at IBM. But the People's Organization and you should do as less work as possible just to maintain your job. No, it's not. Every day we have to be on the slave plantation. Even though we're in slavery, we have to do it until we get strong enough to wage civil war. You understand it? Every day we keep making advances to our people's organization until it's strong enough to smash capitalism.
Okay, with regards to the standpoint that Mark was talking about with Pan-Africanism, that we couldn't stay on this land and be economically empowered, that we would need to physically uproot. What's your prior position on that? We have the African here on this land in North America and be economically and physically empowered, or is it necessary for us to
Okay, well, our resting on this land will certainly have to do with discussions with the indigenous people of the land, the American Indians, because it's their land. But we certainly know that until Africa is unified and socialist and is a powerful force, that no African anywhere in the world will be respected. So our central energies must be placed to Africa. Of course, the question of returning to Africa is automatic. Anyone will want to see at least where their home is. So I don't think that's a real big problem. The real big problem is directing our energies and understanding is our salvation. Once that's understood, then the strategy will follow. Focus. Well, you mentioned the Honorable Marcus Garvey. The Honorable Marcus Garvey never saw Africa. He never put his foot on it. But no one can deny that during his lifetime, no man, no woman worked for Africa like the Honorable Marcus Garvey.
I mean, as students, we need to do this by doing what, by re-implementing African values.
But of course, but being more important than being an organization. I kept saying now organization was the key. And this I know for a fact. So no matter how conscious you are on measuring an organization, this consciousness will have no effect upon the quality of life of mass of people. It'll just be quantitative, not qualitative. So the organization is the crucial aspect of it. And of course, once in your organization, you can see how your organization is making its contribution to Africa. Every organization in this country just about has some relation with Africa. The Nation of Islam has a post in Accra, Ghana. The NAACP has a lot of contact with the African projects that they do, even the Urban League. So once you're in an organization, of course, it has it. The Republic of New Africa, of course, also has a direction. So the organization which you join, they will direct their energies towards Africa, and hopefully you'll be in harmony with your thoughts and your actions.
I was brought from Liberia, West Africa, and I'm proud to be here. I saw a poster, and I was excited to come and see you. I saw you speaking Liberian in the early 70s, when you went for a show with your former wife, some friends from there from Cuba. And I'd like to say here in this moment that Kwame Ture deserves the highest salute as a strong black man that was made a long distance mover and shaker. He's a real thing African. Why? Because he decided to leave America, even though he was born in America, go to Africa and live amongst African people. Understand that. Even when they can't understand, he fought, he struggled for many years in the state of Liberia. This is why I respect him very much. Now, I happen to be in America at this time, and Liberia is a very important country. The history of the black race, but many of our people here don't understand. Liberia was supposed to be the first black independent country and serve as the key center of black liberation in Africa. And that was when Marcus Garvey was supposed to do a reset and start at the base to get all black people to vote. And as you said, that mission was sabotaged in the Western internationally. I'm concerned with two things. I have an organization called the Liberian Education Foundation. We are concerned with education and culture as a keystone to political unity. What I want to share with our brothers and sisters here is how can education and culture be used as a nothing of the content is about relatives. We have to be open up to non-relatives.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We cannot do it without culture and education. Let me give you an example. In America today, and for a decade now, they have been screaming about the breakup of the family. All right. When Africans came to this country, we had no family. Our family structure was purposely broken. We know mothers were sold from their children, etc. We know it. Now, as Africans, the only family life we saw in this country was the nuclear family. That was the structure that we saw. Immediately after slavery, without the slightest analysis, we automatically followed the same family structure which the master had, the nuclear family structure. But here, we're acting out of our culture, and certainly without even reflection to education, even to this day. There are more than one type of family structures. There's a nuclear family structure, there's the extended family structure. There's a patriarchal family structure, there's a matriarchal family structure. There's a monogamous family structure, there's a polygamous family structure. There are many types of family structures. But we did not examine any. We immediately imitated, like we always do without thinking, the family structure of the master who destroyed our family structure. Up until this time, you hear people talk all the time about our families are breaking up, our families are breaking up. No analysis, no research, just cries, like if crying can solve a problem, rather than work, research, and understanding of the problem. They will cry. If you look at the nuclear family, it came out of Europe. It came out of Europe at a particular time when they were going from feudalism to capitalism, when they needed to keep the male worker tied to the machine, and they gave him the responsibility of the family and all the sentiment, your family, you can't leave your family. But today, people follow jobs, not their family. So it's clear the family structure is not necessary for capitalism today. And therefore, since it's not necessary, it's clear they're going to break it down. Well, if it's being broken down for the master, what for the slaves who imitated the system, the family structure is falling? Therefore, outside of their culture, they do not look to extended family. Not only do they not look to extended family, following the master, they even become single parents. Single parents, as if a single person can raise a child. In Africa, we say it takes a village to raise a child. Therefore, here, without the slightest education and out of their culture, they make terrible mistakes. So it is only within our culture, and it's only through education that we will advance. We must use education to look back at our culture, see what was proposed by our ancestors, look at it, shift it, keep the values, and bring it up to date. Until this is done, problems will not be solved. I only gave you one example. Of course, there are many others. One I laugh at all the time is in relation to brothers and sisters. You know, in our party, the All-African People's Revolutionary Party, we have the All-African Women's Revolutionary Union. Every sister in our party must be a member of the All-African Women's Revolutionary Union. Now, we know that men oppress women, and African men oppress their women. But the one place we cannot oppress our women is on the front lines fighting for us. If you look at our history, our women are out front everywhere, more than many other women in other areas on the battlefield. Therefore, in our party, of course, as a revolutionary party, we know that organization is the weapon of the oppressed. Organization is the weapon of the oppressed. And since we know that organization is the weapon of the oppressed, we've organized our sisters. We have disorganized brothers. Since organization is the weapon of the oppressed, since men oppress women, you must disorganize men and organize women. In our party, there will never be an All-African Men's Revolutionary Union, only the All-African Women's Revolutionary Union. Now, since we know our culture, those of us in our party, because we're conscious, we ain't got nothing to worry about with these sisters. They are fighters, Jack. Organize them. As a matter of fact, you can sit down. They take on the enemy by themselves. So once you know your culture, you never, like the brother said to me, how can a sister lead us anywhere? My man, you out your culture. Where are you coming from? Africa produced the first queens in the world. They've been leading us since the beginning. once you know your culture. So if you don't know your culture, you get confused. And of course, the job of the enemy is to make you think you have no culture and make you live his culture. One last example, the other day when having a discussion with somebody, I just said, oh, that's some faggot. I ain't got no time to. A white person was there and said, how could you use that word? I said, oh, it's a faggot. That's what I said, I said, how could you use that? I said, I'm sorry. We're out of cultural context. In the white culture, when you say the word homosexual, it brings up connotation of violence. In our community, we don't beat up on homosexuals. We've never done it. So the connotation is entirely different. When we say faggot in the African community, it doesn't mean the same thing as when you say faggot in the white community. And if you're not careful, you will let their culture go in your culture. But we are tolerant people. We're not intolerant of homosexuals, not in our community. So again, if you don't know your culture, you get confused. You get seriously confused. See brothers and sisters fighting for gay liberation. Fighting for gay liberation? Where are you coming from? In our community? Get out of here, give me a break. I mean, everybody knows James Baldwin was a homosexual. Nobody asked him what his relationship to the means of production was. We just asked him, what's your production of the people's struggle? And that's all we ask. So if you don't know your culture, you get very confused, very confused. So as a people, of course, we don't know our culture, but our culture must be our weapon, It's because of this culture, for example, that we make clear distinctions even on the question of religion and revolution. Karl Marx and Engels said that religion is the opium of the masses. This is true for Europe, given its historical conditions. But if you look at Africa, our revolutions are led by preachers. Chilumbe, who was killed in South Africa in his rebellion, he ain't nothing but a preacher. Nat Turner wasn't nothing but a preacher, a righteous preacher, good preacher. Preacher who led revolution. Malcolm X wasn't nothing but a preacher, Muslim preacher nonetheless. Martin Luther King, preacher. Jesse Jackson, preacher. Louis Farrakhan, preacher. So if you look very carefully at the African Revolution, you will see religion and revolution goes hand in hand for us. Therefore, if we're not clear in our culture, we'll be talking about, religion is holding us back, and we'll take somebody else's culture. Somebody else's culture. For people as religious as we are, because we are the most religious people in this country. The word storefront church comes from us. We gave it to them. We have more thrift churches in our community than any other community, storefront churches. So you have to be aware always of your culture when you fight. If not, you certainly will be confused. And we have to reach back to Africa for that culture. There's no question here.
I found a picture with you, my father, stadium. You had a bullhorn, and I thought you were family came up, and some other brothers and sisters. And you all seen the glow, and I thought that you all were thinking about freedom and liberation for African people. Tell me right now, how can we as brothers and sisters regain that spirit of wanting to be free again, wanting to be liberated, wanting to be African people again? Tell us what we can do.
All we need is for the conscious to come together, organize themselves, and begin to politically educate the masses of our people. That's all. That's all that we need. Everything we have is there. America is more ripe for revolution today than it was in the 1960s. That's clear. The consciousness of the people is rising. The conditions are getting worse. There must be an explosion. This is inevitable. Therefore, once the conscious comes together and begins seriously to spread the truth, it will smash a million lies, and these people will jump into organization. Once our communities are thoroughly organized, we will control them, and we will wipe out all crime and all social evils inside our community. So organization is the only answer. The most conscious must join them and push them. Our people must be transformed from a disorganized people to an organized people.
Can you comment on what's been happening in recent years with the NAACP?
Well, I must tell you now that some people are saying that, the NAACP ought to fall apart. I cannot take this position. I know that my people are disorganized, and hear the statement well. I am not here characterizing the NAACP, but hear the axiom well. Bad organization is better than no organization at all. Consequently, I do not see that the destroying of the NAACP is going to help us, because it doesn't mean that those people in the NAACP are then going to join other organizations. It means you have more disorganized people. So our task is to at least try and keep the NAACP as an organization, because it helps to create an organizational discipline in our community, which we need drastically.
When I want to say Brother Kwame, I think Stokely, because we're in the same grade.
No problem. Shakespeare says a rose by any name still smells the same.
But I want to say that it's been many years since I've seen you. I saw you when I was in college. And I'm here visiting my daughter as a student at Spelman, and I heard that you were here and I had to come.
Thank you.
But I think my comment is about education.
Yes.
I went to a predominantly white school, and I saw you at the University of Houston, in Houston, Texas. And it was a lot of young brothers there, just 500 of us, at least black, in a school of say 20,000. But we worked in turn with another school that was down the street, Texas Southern University, which was an all-black institution. We took the white money and challenged it, and got the people that we needed to speak at our campus, and moved them down to the other school. So it was a way of helping in our own sense. But I think as a commentary to people in my age group, when I look at students, I really get sad, because I work with a lot of kids in my hometown, which is a small town in Texas. But as a parent, even when I was younger, I knew that the only way the struggle could go on is if when my baby was born, I started teaching her at that point. It never should be that you get to be in high school or college and become informed about who you are. You should know that. I mean, I think that's the least right you can do as a person in college. When your baby was born, you start informing them. It's not bad to stop and identify racism as it happens, because racism happens every day. You know, we look for the plan, the whatever, but that's not it. To me, you have to be able to identify. You're supposed to be able to come to this level and know what your role is and who you are. You should never get this far and not know people that are in your history. Or, I think that's the least that we can do for our children. I'm not an ideal parent. There are things I said in the 60s that I've gone against, and, you know, it hasn't gone through to the final for the 90s. But when my daughter came, she knew about God. She read. You know, it's not anything. Now it's so easy. Back then, it was hard because there were no comic books and coloring books, and you know, there was nothing. You can do all kinds of things. I was in a little town, but my child is gone, and she's experienced art. She's experienced speaking. I've taken her to places where when she came here, she was the one that told me about you. You know, and she said, well, Mama, you told me about Stokely Carmichael. He's speaking. I said, hey, I'm going, you know. But I'm just saying, you make it your premise. You're young people now, maybe don't have families or whatever. But make it a premise that it's the least you can do is to teach your children. Don't let them get to the point that they're college students. Black History Month is 1 month. You live all, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. You identify the things that are part of your struggle. Because if my daughter said she was disappointed, she said they had the march of Martin Luther King, and there were very few students from her school, and she was amazed. She just thought, well, come on, that's a small bit of symbolism. But you have to be able to understand that everybody, and she said when she got to the gate, she asked this girl, she said, well, if we both come, why didn't anybody tell me? Because we actually have not. Some people may feel that way, but the struggle is it's just count for just a little different from back then, but it's the same thing. So you need to be able to identify that, and that's all.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Comment on the relationship between class in this country and the reference
Zionism is a political system which tries to confuse Judaism and make it appear as if Judaism is not a religion but a political system. And many people get caught up in that. As a conscious African, I cannot. I know that Africa gave Judaism to the world. I know this. I know the first Jews in the world were Africans. I know this not just from Dr. Ben or from Henry Clark. I know this from Sigmund Freud in his book Moses and Monotheism, his last book. So I'm just saying that it's not just coming from what they consider the masters or crazy people, Sigmund Freud himself. Anyway, anyone who does any clear archaeological studies must know that Judaism came from Africa. And I know it is a religion. And I know that when the Ethiopians became Jews, they were not looking for a state because Ethiopia is the first state in the world. So they clearly were not looking for as a religion. So I do not confuse with Zionism, but Zionism does attack us everywhere. And not only that, it controls the political relationship on this country on the question of relationship to the Arabs and to the Zionists. There's no, Senator Fulbright just died last week, a couple of weeks ago. But nobody mentioned the reason why Fulbright was never heard about was because he made a statement about how much control they had in the Congress, and he was finished. Let me show you how strong we Africans are. Now, watch this, I'll show you. I don't even know what APAC is, APAC, APAC. Only one brother knows. APAC, you live in a country, you say it's democratic. APAC is the strongest lobbying force in the American Senate and Congress. APAC. It is a lobbying force of Israel. It's the strongest. No congressman, no elected official have ever gotten up and said anything against Israel and got elected. Not one, except one, Gus Savage of Chicago. Just show you how strong we are. You got to watch your history now. If you're not careful, they fool you. Gus Savage, while he was running, he got up and he said, they give more money to Israel than they do to the ghetto in Chicago. That's why we have so much problems. We ought to cut the money. Say, what? They did everything to stop him from winning. But the Africans in Chicago voted for him. You know how they got rid of him? They gerrymandered his district. Just divided up from under him. So there's no question that we are the front runners to fight against them. And that's why they're against us. They have to control us. Because once we break, they're in trouble. Let me give you a clear example. Martin Luther King supported Zionism. He attacked me, you understand, because of my support for Zionism. Because of my attack on Zionism, Dr. King attacked me. They have an organization in this country called the ADL. It's the African Death League. That's what it is. That's what it is. They call it the Anti-Defamation League. But dig this. This Anti-Defamation League, which is an arm of Zionism, not of Judaism, eavesdropped on Dr. Martin Luther King's telephone conversations. Took all this information, gave it to Mossad, Israeli intelligence, took all this information, gave it to the FBI because they're more thorough. The ADL giving information to the FBI and the CIA on Dr. Martin Luther King, and he supported them, attacked me for them. So just these two facts alone will show clearly that Zionism is the enemy of humanity. I'll tell you, anybody who eavesdrops on Dr. King's telephone and collects this information, give it to the FBI, is an enemy of our people, because Dr. King represented us in the best of integrity. So Zionism definitely is getting weaker, and we're going to hit it harder and harder and harder and bring it down. It tries to cause all sorts of confusion, but the reason why I hate them is because they insult us like nobody else does. They insult us. You know, they will say that Farrakhan is crazy, he's anti-this and anti-that, and then when he speaks, his people cheers him when he makes anti-religious statements. Y'all think they're attacking Farrakhan. I know they're attacking my people. Now, Farrakhan's my brother. You can attack him, I might look at you, but you touch my people, I'm coming after you. Yes, sir. You touch my people, Jack, I'm coming after you. Yes, sir. You can walk over me, I'll leave you alone, but you touch my people, I'll kill you. Yes, sir. So when they're attacking, it's not Farrakhan they're attacking, it's us. Look at our history. I said we're the most religious people in this country. It's a fact. We've had our churches burnt. We've never burnt anybody's church. Our culture has never allowed us to burn anybody's church, even though our churches have been burnt left and right. We've never attacked any synagogue in this country, never. We've never defaced any religious institution in this country, never. And these pigs gonna make it appear as if we like Hitler. They're gonna come attack us everywhere. Khalid Muhammad is rising up, they're gonna march on the Jews. Give me a break. Who attacks synagogues in this country, us or the white right? Who burns synagogues in this country, us or the white right? Do they attack the white right who's doing it? No, they attack us who have a perfect history of attacking no religious institutions, of perfect respect for religion, of people whose culture should be followed by others, and they attack us. They're nothing but slimy scum. So the Zionism here will continue our contact. This question of class and bourgeoisie must be properly understood. We say the African bourgeoisie is the most corrupt in the world, and it is. It is the most corrupt because it doesn't even seek to stand on its own feet. It seeks always to receive money from a white company and work as a worker for this white company, and that's what they are. If you look at them in Africa, they have no hallmarks of the bourgeoisie trying to build factories in Africa and exploit money is found in Geneva, in Western banks. For them, the hallmarks of being a bourgeoisie is having an expense account, fancy clothes, a European way of life, and being able to travel to Europe when you want. That's the hallmarks of it. They have no proper relationship to the means of production. They are more bourgeois in aspirations than in material reality. And this is really dangerous. This is really dangerous. Therefore, and added to this, with the inferiority complex, they are easily gotten to betray their people without thinking about it. So our struggle with this bourgeoisie is more an ideological struggle than a material struggle. Because we say even in Atlanta, when an African is not a mayor, they're crying. The only way they get some money is when the political gravy train comes along. Otherwise, of course, they have no factories. They don't produce nothing. The best they can do is be in service industries at best. So with this line, you know they're not direct exploiters because they don't have the means of production. It's more an attitude. Therefore, that's why with illogical struggle, more and more, you can wipe them out. Of course, so their class aspirations is just that, aspirations. When they say they aspire to be bourgeoisie, you know what they aspire to do? Work for IBM. That's what they consider to be bourgeois. You know, a high-paying job for them is bourgeoisie. Obviously, it's not how much managed wages you get, but your position to the means of production that make you bourgeois. And all they're worried about is getting higher wages, not even control of the means of production. So it's a real struggle here against this. Of course, to point out clearly, precisely what the class means, what is bourgeoisie, what is proletariat, and it is defined by your relationship to the means of production, not by what you think you are or think what you want to be. So the struggle is the election struggle. Sister.
I'd like to know how you feel about Africans participating in the American so-called democratic system, like voting on president and stuff like that.
Unless we're organized, it's useless. Unless we're organized, it's useless. And since we're not organized, that's why it's useless. We have all these mayors and no power. No power at all in the Democratic Party. I mean, we got 300 mayors in the Democratic Party and no power at all. No other ethnic group in this country would tolerate that. So, no organization at all. We have more elected officials than any other ethnic group in this country. No organization, no power. So we must be organized.
Could you explain more scientific socialism and how it relates to the form of socialism in Cuba or European communism?
Okay. You know, of course, the question you asked me is a question which will take serious time. I have no question against time, but it's not my purpose to do this. My purpose is to stimulate you to want to know socialism for yourself, not for me to come and serve it up to you on a dish. So let me just give you some of the characteristics and principles of socialism, and hopefully you'll be inspired to want to find it out for yourself. Under a capitalist system, the material makeup is that a few people own and control everything, the wealth of the country. Under a socialist system, the people own and control the means of production. The people own and control the wealth of the country. So you can see clearly the difference here. Under capitalism, a few. Under socialism, everybody. But you know, capitalism will so twist the minds of people that those who ain't got nothing to gain to be the strongest supporters of capitalism. I reminded of a brother once when I had a discussion on capitalism, and I was mad that day. I mean, I must have been extra mad, so I just kicked capitalism extra hard. So we got out of the meeting, the brother said, you know, Brother Kwame, I've been following you for a long time. You're my man and all that, but I don't go for that stuff you talk about capitalism. And I discussed capitalism, show chattel slavery, show wage slavery. I said, my brother, what you mean? You hear what I said? I heard everything you said. I said, but dude, brother, listen. I said, what they do to wage slavery, you know what they do to wage slavery? I mean, like, what's your salary? Where you work? I'm going to show you how to rip you off. He said, I don't go for all that. I said, well, where you work? What's your salary? I'm unemployed, but I don't go for all that. He can't even sell his labor. And he's supporting the capitalist system. So you find people who don't own nothing supporting it. Most of these college students will support capitalism even though they will never own nothing in America except their labor and sell it maybe at a higher price to IBM. That's the best they can get. But they're supported again because of confusion. Under socialism, everybody owns it. The motivating force for a capitalist system is profit. That's why students come to school just for profit. It's a motivating force in the society. It's a motivating force that pushes the entire society, and that's profit. Under socialism, the motivating force is service to humanity. Service to humanity. We don't mean that everyone in the social system now will serve humanity, but the socialist system forces you to serve humanity. Let me give you an example. In Guinea, where I live, we had a revolutionary socialist regime there for 26 years. Under that regime, doctors were forced to serve the people and get the same amount of money as a worker. Now, you know, they didn't want to hear this. Because they were doctors, they were somehow special. And since they were somehow special, they were supposed to get more money than everybody else. You understand? No, it was you came here to serve the people. In Africa, we need you. You're going to work because Africa educates. You're going to serve the people, and you get the same salary just like a worker. I remember this back with attitude when I was a student at Howard University. I entered for pre-med. I'll never forget, their attitude was so disgusting. I mean, I actually wanted to vomit. I remember once having a discussion with them at lunch table. We were pre-med students, and they already wearing a little white coat, you know, like they, I mean, pre-med, I mean, you were freshmen, you understand? You didn't get to med school. They were in a white doctor's coat. Came and sit down there. We're always talking about the same old junk, you know, when I become a doctor, I'm going to get this type of car, I'm going to marry this kind of woman, I'm going to, you know, like being medicine had nothing to do with serving the people, you know, taking care of the sick, just getting yourself a big car. So, of course, I always waging struggle with them, and once one brother said, well, I don't know what's wrong with you, just tell the truth, you know, I'm in here for 8 years, I got to study for 8 years, and I got 2 years of internship, and I got to go out there and build, I'm supposed to get something. My father was a carpenter, and my father was working in New York in the cold. You understand? So I asked him, so what about my father? He working 8 long years in the cold, while you 8 long years in a warm school building, studying some books, and he out there busting his energy off in the cold. How come he don't get at the end of his 8 years are raised like you? You understand? So the doctors, of course, in Guinea, they didn't like the system, they didn't like it. You understand? But they had to serve the people. We educated them, they serve the people, and they get the same salary like everybody else and keep getting up. So socialism, motivating force is service to humanity. They may not like it, but they'll be forced to do it. And finally, of course, on the socialism, capitalism is an unplanned system. It's an unplanned system. Socialism is properly planned. Now, let me give you some of the benefits of it. Everyone knows that Cuba is a very poor country. America never tires of telling us this, as if poverty is a crime, especially since they rape you. But as poor as Cuba is, every citizen in Cuba gets free. If you fall down in the streets of Havana and you ain't got nothing in your pocket and you need a heart transplant, you get it.
Gabby, Gabby, rise again. Take her from this evil den. Gabby, Gabby, rescue it from this ideology. Marcus Garvey rising from earth, like Moses speak from birth. Come children, say it loud, make them know we're still black and proud. Scabba-dabba-dab. Scabba-dabba-dab. African leaders just wait. Garvey action we can duplicate. Black pride him did preach. To the young we must teach. Put Garvey in reality.